how do you think adults can better protect kids and young people by shifting conversation into action?
Well, I mean, I think the critical first thing is adults have got to be willing to have those conversations. And I think it's still really hard for a lot of grown-ups, a lot of adults, to initiate what can often be difficult and awkward and challenging conversations about when they see young people at risk. But they've got to do that. We've got to get to a world in which the safety of children crashes through any barriers of stigma or awkwardness or tension that adults might feel in raising issues. And I don't think we're there yet, but I think that's a really important thing that adults can do, because to be honest, when you don't say something, when you don't raise your voice, when you don't call a question on something, you're actually prioritizing your own sort of feelings and your own sense of not wanting to be awkward over the safety of a child. And that's not okay, because the safety of the child has to be first and foremost. And so I do think adults, have got to be honest with each other about really having that impetus to raise issues, and really, putting aside any awkwardness or any tension and just being willing to make sure that you are having those conversations and you're raising those issues.
Perfect. Okay, and so you've recently launched the Office for Youth, allowing young people to have more say on government level decisions. How do you plan to ensure young people are given the chance to advocate for their needs into government beyond just the office advocating on their behalf?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we're keen to do with the Office for Youth is catalyse a broader conversation around government. I mean, you've got to start somewhere, and I think one of the things that we'd seen in the past is the voices of young people were just sort of lost. They were just falling through cracks. I mean, there were so many decisions that I think were being made that really impacted young people, where you'd sort of look around and there were no young people there. So the Office for Youth is to create that hub, that nucleus. But you're absolutely right. It's about creating that opportunity across government to platform young people's voices. And we're still exploring how those structures might work. And so an example of that might be creating separate sort of subgroups or advocacy and activist spaces for young people with different priorities and lived experiences. So examples of that might be First Nations young people, LGBTIQ young people, perhaps young people with experiences of the out-of-home care sector or something like that. Those groups would then make sure that they're linked in with the other relevant policy spaces, so out-of-home care, or perhaps even something to do with mental health. That's another portfolio of mine. So they're linked into health policy. Young people are really passionate about climate change and climate action. So perhaps the Office for Youth linking them into climate policy. So we just hope it's a catalyst. We hope it's a conversation starter. I agree with you. We don't just want it to be an internal conversation where the Office for Youth speaks to young people but no one else does. That wouldn't achieve our goals. And so we're looking at the ways that we can use the office to identify and skill up young people, but then they're actually speaking out. They're actually reaching out into other parts of government that are making these decisions and saying, hey, listen to us, we are linked in, we know how the decisions are being made, we know how to be advocates for our own priorities. We expect not just a seat at the table, but like a role setting the agenda.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and so how do you plan to create action in disadvantaged areas like rural and remote towns where there's no resources for action to happen?
Well, I think that we plan to do that by specifically providing those resources. So rural and regional young people are a great example of the kind of special voice and place that we would want to create in the Office for Youth. And I've already given a commitment that there will be that role within the office specifically for rural and regional young people, and we'll look to resource that and provide those opportunities. My sense is that there are young people in those places who care. It's not that there's a passion gap, it's not that they are disinterested, it's that they haven't been given the skills and the resources, they haven't been shown that we value their voice. So they're very passionate and determined, it's just that they've lacked access to power. We want to give them that access. And so the Office for Youth will have a specific rural and regional engagement. We haven't decided whether it's a task force or a committee or some kind of, something like that, but it will have a dedicated space. And we really want to make sure that young people from rural and regional New South Wales have that opportunity to specifically say, here are our shared experiences of young people, as young people, but here are our specific needs as rural and regional young people that aren't necessarily shared, but are really important to us.
Perfect. And then finally, there are multiple events happening during Child Protection Week, including different webinars. Is there something that you specifically are looking forward to?
Look, not really. I mean, I love opportunities like Child Protection Week. I mean, as I said, I just think it's a really important conversation to have. And sometimes people do avoid talking about really challenging issues, in our failures to protect children and prioritise their safety. So we have to be formal about it. We have to create a structure. We actually have to say, no, this is a dedicated time to talk about how important it is that we protect children. And I think that's, we cannot let those things just be assumed or go by the wayside. We have to centre them. So I think the thing that I'm most looking forward to is the youth-led conversations and the youth-led initiatives, because I think there are a lot of very well-intentioned adults in youth policy and in child protection, and I'm probably one of them myself. I'd probably put myself in the well-intentioned adult category. But the most kind of interesting ideas and the energy and the stuff that really, I find the most useful and I am looking forward to is the stuff that's youth-led, the stuff that's like young people speaking for themselves. And it's not always easy to hear that. That's what I love. Young people sometimes will say challenging things and challenge government and demand accountability, and I actually love that too. They have a lot of as I said, passion, and when they're given that chance to have their say, there's something like tingles in the air, I think, because it's like, yes, this is real, as opposed to just government people talking kind of bureaucratic bullshit. On behalf of young people, you've got to let the young people speak for themselves.